After all, my kid doesn't owe that other kid anything, so why would I ask my kid to make a sacrifice? That's just not the way the world works. Oddly enough, that is precisely how God works. God asked His child, His only Son, to sacrifice for people that He owed nothing and had never done anything to deserve Him to do something for them. How much sacrifice would you ask your child to put up with for the benefit of someone else's child? If the other child was sickly, would you ask your child to make them a get well card and take it to them? Probably so. I think most people I know would find that to be a reasonable thing to do. What if the other child was a brat? What if the other child ignored your child or made fun of him or her? Would you still have your kid make the get well card? I mean, maybe you still would, but if you're anything like me, you'd probably have to talk yourself into it. It wouldn't be my first reaction. It wouldn't be my natural reaction to ask my kid to do something for some other kid that treats my kid bad. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just being honest and saying that's not my natural reaction. And we're talking about making a get well card. 10 minutes of time writing or drawing something on a piece of paper. Hardly what you'd really call a sacrifice. It's not like we're asking our kid to give the other kid his or her bike or their game console or some other prized possession. After all, my kid doesn't owe that other kid anything, so why would I ask my kid to make a sacrifice? That's just not the way the world works. Oddly enough, that is precisely how God works. God asked His child, His only Son, to sacrifice for people that He owed nothing and had never done anything to deserve Him to do something for them. And so let's be clear about what God asked, what He really asked His Son to do, the request He made of Him. First, He asked Him to leave heaven, to leave His Father's side. I mean, really? He had been there from the very beginning. The Bible says that all things were made through Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. So why did He have to lower Himself and go be a part of what was made through Him instead of staying in heaven? And then He was asked to live a life where He had no home or even a pillow to lay His head on at night. It's not like He sent Him to live in a big palace and eat the best food and spend time with the rich and powerful. No, He asked Him to do just the opposite. And He didn't just send Him to earth to make up His own rules. He said He would be tempted in every way, just like you and me, but He still had to follow His Father's rules all the time, without exception. No getting frustrated with how He was being treated and taking revenge on people or making them pay the price somehow for what they had done. Nope. Always had to be nice. Always had to be a perfect example, no matter how He was treated. But the people would honor Him, exalt Him, treat Him like the royalty He was, right? No, not exactly. A few people would, but mostly, no. They would despise Him, ridicule Him, and eventually torture and kill Him. And they would do that, all of that, in the most public, heinous, and humiliating way that they could. By using a torture and humiliation device from the Roman government called a cross. Make no mistake, it was a torture device designed specifically to cause as much pain and humiliation as possible. How could any father, how could any loving father even think about asking his child to do all of that? And what's really hard to get my mind around is that He asked Him to do that for all those people that were treating Him so poorly. It's not like God asked Him to do something for the people that were nice to Him. He asked Him to make this unbelievable sacrifice for the rotten scoundrels that were terrible to Him. I struggle to think about asking one of my children to sacrifice for people that are mean to them. For people that are good to them, sure, maybe. But for people that are mean or deceitful or rude to them, that's hardly my first reaction. And yet, that's what God asked His Son to do. To demonstrate for us, not just in empty words, but in real sacrificial action, to make sure we can see just how much He cares for us, just how much He loves us. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son. Those aren't just words, that actually happened. So every Sunday, along with some fellow saints, we pause and we remember this loving Father's unbelievable request. What God asked His Son to do for you and me. I've done that every Sunday for decades now, and I still have trouble comprehending the scope and magnificence of such sacrificial love. God didn't do this just for me and my fellow saints. He did it for you as well. And I just think it's important that everyone in the world knows that. A loving God made an unbelievable request of His Son because He loves you. And I just wanted to share that with you today. I hope it impacts you. I hope you understand. Thanks for listening. God bless you on your journey.